It's been said before, and I'll say it again. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So where would you rather be than right here and right now on the Ralph Rant? Let's go.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant, your source for hard-hitting Buffalo Bills takes. Now, here's your host of the Ralph Rant, that veteran watcher of generations of Bills teams, the prophet who predicted Josh Allen's greatness, that opinionated so-and-so you've walked out on parties because of, the Ralph.
Welcome to the Ralph Rant. It is a wonderful Tuesday, snowy evening here in Bills country. Things have gotten cold, including the team, as it would seem. A lot of us are wondering deeply what in the hell is going on with the Buffalo Bills. Thank you for joining me this evening. See, we already got some folks in the house. We're going to do a little bit of a psychoanalysis. I'm not sure why this isn't up yet, but there it is. The Ralph psychoanalyzes the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to dig into it. And I think the image I have behind me here, which is the thumbnail for this particular show, kind of says it all, because we've got a very disillusioned looking Josh Allen peering at his head coach, Sean McDermott, his offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, and of course, his GM, Brandon Beane. And I'm going to rely pretty much a lot on your comments tonight because we're going to dig in and see if we can't search for what the situation is. Let me get the comments going here. And there's a lot of different thoughts out there about this. And one that's we'll show here soon, but Vito B is in the house, as he always is, and maintains that we have seen this before. We have gone through this previously. And certainly we've seen the Bills come from a 6-6 mark and win out. And we always try to look into this and see, well, are there differences now from, for example, that particular season where they had consecutive losses, I believe, against the Brady Buccaneers and then the Philadelphia Eagles, which were both very close games. And after that seemed to spur them along from that point that got them to 6-6. And of course, I think they were 6-4 going into that. And Buffalo's looking at a possibility of 6-4. So it's hard to try to get to the bottom of it, to where are we saying, is this just like a seasonal occurrence with the Bills? Is this just what the chemistry of the team is about and how the team functions? I mentioned something about Secretariat the other night. Of course, the horse that won the Triple Crown and still known as the best horse to ever run in those races. And everyone knows that Secretariat often fell behind in his races. And I'm repeating myself saying it, but he fell behind and liked and seemed to enjoy the process of coming back against the odds. And that's perhaps as valid a thing to talk about as any. I mean, if we look at Josh Allen himself and his whole history, we know that coming out of high school, he didn't have any offers. He sent out 1,000 emails with film, didn't get any responses, started off at the JUCO level, ended up at Wyoming, and as a Cowboy, was constantly fighting the battle to succeed, even through college. And then, of course, he gets drafted high, but then, even then, after being drafted by the Bills, and prior to that, of course, there was a lot of talk about the fact that, he's not really a suitable NFL quarterback. He's not accurate. He hasn't done well against big Power 5 teams, so on and so forth. We've heard it all. And that notion that Josh needs to fight for what he wants and needs to have a lot of adversarial pushback against him in trying to achieve that, that might be as good of a reason as could be. And of course, that would be the type of reason where we're talking about, okay, this is something that's the same for Josh as we go along. I've got on the top of my quickly written notes here why Josh looks lost at this point. So that's one possibility, and we're going to talk a lot about your comments tonight here after I get through a little bit here. I'm not going to spend long on this sad sack monologue to get things going, but the few notes I have here is why perhaps in this particular campaign does Josh have this look on his face that we've seen in the press conferences, we've seen on the sideline. The number one I've got was that Santa Beane did not get him a receiver. And we know the stories are out there that Beane was trying to get Jalen Waddle, that the Dolphins were requiring the Bills' first and third round picks from the 2026 draft. And Beane was unwilling to part with the 2026 first round pick and instead was offering the 2027 first round pick. Plus, I'm assuming now, the 2026 third round pick. Which, again, that brings up the same argument that we're having over and over again, that Beane is valuing draft capital highly, which is great. Okay, value the draft capital highly, but you turn around and perhaps don't utilize it as well. I mean, and he's got to get off the hook on that a little bit because Max Hairston has intercepted the ball twice in the first two games. Of course, he's played this season after having been injured early in training camp and now on the field. And he had a couple of rookie moments the other night. Those are to be expected. And I think the fact that Buffalo was even playing him at all is an indication that they need him, because McDermott, we know, has often been want, and that's W-O-N-T, not with an accent there, but meaning that he doesn't like playing young players. And we've seen that. So, and the other part of the Beane did not get him a receiver under the trade deadline Christmas tree. And Jalen Waddle, I mean, if they'd gotten Jalen Waddle, they'd probably win this particular game. And you say, oh, well, you're going to do an entire trade for one particular game. Hey, that's a division game that you might have been able to win, and now you've got the Patriots 2 games up on the Bills. And the Patriots, they might not be interested in losing and allowing the Bills to catch up. So you could have a situation here where that was a huge, huge mark against this season by not having Waddle, because if you'd had Waddle, Josh Allen might find that, this is what it's like to have a great receiver. This is what it's like to have one of those guys. And not only that, Miami wouldn't have had him, and they wouldn't have scored. And he wouldn't have been having to put Max Hairston up against Waddle and having Waddle getting beat for that second touchdown of the Dolphins. So not having Waddle and basically wanting to hang on to your 2026 first-round draft pick, which Brandon Beane has already suggested that this is a championship roster when he was asked in the press conference following the trade deadline. Well, if it's a championship roster, that means you're drafting 29, 30, 31, 32. So is that pick really that important for what you're getting for that? It's not like you're giving away like the 15th or the 12th or even the 17th pick in the draft. But the other side of it with the Beane situation might be something Josh is feeling himself, and this is something I'm going to dive into a little bit more with Josh Allen and the pedestal he's basically put on with the Buffalo Bills. Because although the Waddle business I'm talking about is speculation, we do know for a fact that Josh Allen wanted Keon Coleman. And Keon Coleman he's a second round pick because the Bills traded and took him with the 33rd pick in the draft rather than the 30th as they could have. But he's looking like a bust. I mean, you listen to McDermott answering questions about him with his effort and so forth. And yes, he caught a long ball and scored the other day. And that was against the fifth or sixth cornerback for the Dolphins. There's just no excuse. And I'm going to get to your comments here because the show's going to be about the comments. The second reason, and we're going from basically Beane across. And next, we're going to talk about Brady. Brady has not really built the offense around Josh, and we don't know if that's because Brady in his heart of hearts thinks, well, I don't have a receiver. What am I expected to do? So I'm going to use James Cook a lot. But if the reason you're going to build around James Cook and not Josh Allen for the offense, that would at least bring you to the thought that, okay, we're going to run a lot of play action, but the Bills aren't running a ton of play action. So that one falls by the wayside. And Brady, much like many other offensive coordinators, actually, is up in the booth as opposed to down on the sideline. And you see that in other teams, but the issue with that is the fact that, okay, on other teams where you don't have Josh Allen as the quarterback, where he's not like the face of the franchise, where he's not put on this big pedestal, you might have other offensive assistants that can really get into the face of and talk to, scream at, reason with, whatever it may be, the quarterback. But there doesn't seem to be anyone on the sideline that goes up to Josh when he's got that look on his face as he had in the presser, as we see in the thumbnail, and shake him by the shirt and say, come on, man. Because I think they're afraid to. So possibly that, the Brady situation with the fact that his position isn't that high with relation to Josh. It's all about hierarchy here and who is big enough and strong enough to take on Josh. Well, we know one guy, and he's done it before, and it's Brian Daboll. And Brian Daboll is out of a job, as we well know. But Sean McDermott dismissed that summarily in his Monday press conference, which could possibly mean that's precisely what they're going to do. We don't know. Number 3, McDermott. We're moving across here, and this will be the last one, and we're going to talk about your comments. But McDermott doesn't help Josh Allen on the sideline. Well, he can't because he's now the defensive coordinator, essentially. He's calling the defensive plays, we know, and being busy enough with that. And frankly, we don't even see him talking with groups of defenders, gathering them around. How many times do you see that in other games where a coordinator or a head coach has got the guys around him and he's talking them up or even communicating with anyone? I don't see that. And I talked about this in videos I did several weeks ago after the 2 losses that immediately came before the bye. But again, like no one else can do it either, because the pedestal that Josh Allen is on, it's like people are afraid to come up and like smack him in the face and snap out of it, Josh. Be Josh Allen. But there's nobody there to tell him to be Josh Allen. In the meantime, he's married to someone who's telling him he can be so many different things than Josh Allen. I'm sorry I said that, but I know my lovely wife is downstairs listening to her AirPods, so I don't have the TV coming into the mic, and she didn't hear that because she warned me against saying anything like that. But anyway, let's psychoanalyze. And we're going to just start going through a few of them here. And again, I said this earlier, Vito B, the Bills went through these bad-looking season-ending thinking periods every year. He's not a McDermott fan, but we'll make an assessment again at the end of the year. After the Packer offense last night, bad games happen. Yes, and I would know that if I wasn't a YouTube TV user, but frankly got an email from them today giving instructions how to get $20 back from them because I can't watch Monday night fucking football anymore. Sorry, I didn't mean to stick that in. Up the irons is in here. Receivers are not getting any separation. That's exactly correct. And that goes back to Beane just focusing on the defense, obviously in free agency and obviously in the draft. There was only one receiver drafted, and he's long gone. That was Caden Prather with the 7th pick, or the 7th round pick of the Bills. I mean, we heard Bills content creators, not the least of which, and of course the most of which, for that matter, Joe Marino, just pleading with them to draft Torrey Horton, who has just been astonishing for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. Okay, Vito B is saying, don't need great space separation. Great quarterbacks can zip it in regardless of separation or not. Well, I mean, that comes down to the situation with, a pass I saw thrown to both, actually to Keon Coleman, who really went up and played defense but didn't turn around and attack that football, or the throw that was the interception in the end zone that obviously was a stem. Maybe Knox doesn't go the right direction. He's supposed to cross the guy's face and go inside, which is probably the rule if Josh is under pressure because he had someone in his face at that point. But moreover, I mean, you had Tyrell Shavers open with some separation in the back of the end zone just beyond, almost as if that throw was supposed to go there. It was actually looked like it was in line. And Shavers does get some separation. We talked about him getting separation versus I think it was the game against the Falcons where I believe Josh threw to his left, short and inside of, I think it was Ray Davis, where he was looking the wrong way, essentially, for this, because off to his right side, he had Tyrell Shavers standing by himself, running essentially by himself past the number 10 at the 10-yard line on the right side. So I don't know. Some of this seems to be Josh, having turn downs and not making stuff. But Secretariat won. Well, that's absolutely right. And that's my whole point about the Secretariat business I was talking about before. He liked to get behind, so he had the ability to catch up and put it in people's faces and go past them. And the jockeys, but especially the main one that rode him, knew that about the horse. I just jumped past a bunch of things, a bunch of comments here. We're going to get to all of them, as I always do. Scott Bobzik in the house. Mac Hollins, Xavier Worthy, and Waddle. 3 nice wide receivers. Coleman, Palmer, and a first-round pick. Super Bowl bound. Now they won't make the playoffs. Beane made too many mistakes. And who can argue with any of these things because we don't actually know. Scott continues, coaching and GM have really let the team down, and I believe that. I tend to believe that. I think it's reprehensible that Beane didn't do anything about this. And if he's saying that right after the trade deadline in his presser, when he was asked the question, do you think this is a championship roster without having made any trades? Well, some people will say, well, what the hell is he going to say? Anything but yes, of course, I think it's a championship roster. But we've seen Beane with an attitude pushing back on reporters, and we did not see that attitude in that presser. He looked like he was defeated. Dump Coleman, Morris Daniel, get Alec Pierce and draft wide receiver Chris Bell of Louisville. Shakir, Pierce, and Bell, very little cost. Well, that's true, and that's also next season. You needed to do something about this season. Vito B, too many commercials. Seen him in a new one last night. Could be thinking I'm getting all the spotlights and my teammates are getting zero. It's psychological. It's possible too. We have to look at every possibility here when we're talking about this. Get Allen two. Repeat, two solid wide receivers. And what, have Beane actually admit he was wrong? You know, I'm just as disillusioned as Josh at this point. I was really angry the other night, but it's like, what the hell are you doing? Waddle buys us at least one more win last week, and that may have been a very, very, very important win. I agree with that, and I already mentioned that. Turnovers are critical at time. Turnovers at critical times was their downfall, period. Last year, way ahead of the turnover battle, law of averages couldn't continue. And I don't disagree with that. But you have to put it's time to start considering, if you think this much of Josh Allen and you've made him the face of your organization, at some point you've got to realize that he needs some great guys around him. And a Waddle trade would have been something. Woke his joke is with us tonight. Why don't they use Coleman as a slot receiver? Well, I think Josh is used to having, who was the best slot receiver Josh ever worked with? Jamison Crowder was actually even pretty good, but of course, Cole Beasley. Small, quick, could find the spots, find the holes. It doesn't need to be small or quick either. I mean, let's face it. Travis Kelce Swift does the same thing for Mahomes. And how can that big ox get as open as he can? Because, and I don't know why this is so difficult. Taylor Salty is in the house. And of course, Taylor, was on the show with me the other night. And let me interject by thanking everyone for all the wonderful comments. And I shared a few of them with her it was great to have her on the show. What positivity can we use at this point in the season? What should we look for as indicators for progress? And that's a really great question. The Bills are playing a contending club at 1:00 Sunday at the Ralph. The Buccaneers are coming into town, of course, with Baker Mayfield, who was the first pick in that same draft in which Josh was the 7th. So this is an opportunity to go up against a contender. It doesn't help as much because it is an NFC team, but at this point, wins are all important, obviously. And that might be a thing. And I mean, we're sure as hell going to be looking very, very closely at that. Up the irons. Coleman is not a slot receiver. Shakir is the slot. Well, indeed. And Shakir does have that knack for getting open, but Josh is, I think, adapted into this everyone eats methodology we've had from last season. And I think you could go a little bit too far from that. I think you need to sometimes just realize you have a hot hand and keep on going to a guy. That's what we saw a lot with Cole Beasley. And the everyone eats business, of course, sort of grew out of the fact that we had Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs always looking over his shoulder, always looking for the ball and so forth. And the thought that, okay, that was becoming a problem for Josh. And Josh would be more comfortable if he didn't have that pressure on him to throw to that guy. And okay, that's fine. So we got rid of Diggs and took the biggest dead cap hit the team has ever taken in doing so. But the one thing we forget about is that the everyone eats portion of this is that the everyone is made up of individuals, none of which are actually getting the ball a lot. The only time that's happened is with Kincaid when he had the 6 catches for over 100. But Kincaid is hurt again with a hamstring and out for a while. I'm sure that's going to be at least 2 or 3 weeks on the sideline. And again, the injuries are just maddening. Scott S. is in, and if this is the Scott S., he is a brother of Ralph. What about Dayball? He'll let me know maybe if that is him, I believe. Can we bring him back? Would it help Josh? Well, you know what? This is one of the points that I brought up a little bit earlier, but the fact is that of anyone that has ever been on the sideline with any sort of empowerment over Josh Allen, it has been Dave's. And of course, as we know, he was just fired from the Giants, which makes him a great choice because it's almost like a Josh McDaniels situation. The same sort of thing where McDaniels of the Patriots went off to be a head coach. It failed. He realized my place is in being a coordinator. And that's where he is now and doing great things with Drake May, as much as I hate to say it. And I think Dayball is actually a thought, is a real thought to have him back on the sideline because, again, there's no one on the sideline ready to walk up to Josh and, what the hell's the matter with you? Where were you throwing there? Where were you throwing? And at least get Josh to react. Well, Knox didn't break inside and cross the face of the receiver. That's his rule. Yeah, well, look at the service here, Josh. Did you not see Shavers was wide goddamn open in the back of the end zone? That type of thing. I mean, there's no one on the sideline with the bravery to go up to the Josh Allen and tell him these things. Brian Dayball would be an answer. I'd do it in a minute. Team quit on McDermott in Miami. Yes, they did quit. Yes, they did quit. That long run, that wasn't a case of somebody on A-Chain's touchdown. That wasn't the case of having like 8 up front in the box and getting creased because someone didn't fill a gap. That was quit. That was quit. Would Dayball want to come back? Good coordinators don't want to work under McDermott. You know, maybe there would need to be a come to Jesus meeting with if Pagula, and I've never seen Pagula get mad at either McDermott or Beane. But somebody in a position of power, unless they want to bring me in and talk to these guys and tell them, look at what's going on. Understand what needs to happen here. Josh Allen is sitting on the throne of the leader, as the leader of this team. But there's a famous old saying by Charlemagne that on any throne, on the greatest throne of the planet, we are seated upon our own arse, as it's put. And when people are on a throne and they fall off it, they try to put up an image of, oh, we're still okay because we were on the throne, and they forget how badly bruised you can get falling off a throne. So I think that's definitely a situation. And by the way, that's Cecil McDoug in the house. He's the second furthest Ralph Rant subscriber coming to us from lovely Portugal, where I had the best seafood of my life and will never forget it. Good to see you in here, Cease. Up the irons. Josh needs someone in his face on the sidelines. Giving me a chance to sulk is not doing him any good. Precisely. And Tommy is in the house. Mafia Sports Report. Definitely check out his channel. He was actually one of the proponents of the Ralph Rant when I got started. He's a great friend, and and you want to talk about somebody who tells it like it is. Go check out their channel, Tommy and Mikey. I've been saying this about the wide receiver room since last season, and here we are in week 10 with the passing game, or perhaps without it. What we need is fast wide receivers because they stretch the field and force the secondary to back up. Well, that's exactly right. I mean, and that sounds like just a simple, silly notion to indicate, but the fact is, guys, is you've got basically a lot of teams are playing too high against this team, and they're capping at 25 yards down the field because we don't have anybody that threatens them where they have to worry about getting downfield. And because they don't have anybody threatening them, they can stay up close. They can come in and fill gaps, trigger, and do, what you do with James Cook, because the Brady's formula seems to be using James Cook, but it's like a math problem. If that very first operation and the math problem is incorrect, everything that follows it is going to continue to be incorrect. And if you can't get that run game going, and it almost comes down, can James Cook get 8 yards on that first down carry, or is it 2? And that just seems to change the tone for the entire thing. Coleman draws him in closer. Absolutely. He's not a separator. And if Beane did that against his own wishes, and we'll never know that, and allow Josh to make the choice, again, you can't. Josh is the quarterback of this team. He's not the team. He's the quarterback of the team. This game is played with 22 players on the field at any one time, which makes it the most complex with the most possible outcomes you could imagine. And you can't leave it to your quarterback to select a receiver for the draft. Vito's, I like Caden Prather. He had determination, thought he was better than Coleman. Might well have been. And, from the standpoint of, a high draft pick, you have to kind of you can't back off on that. I mean, McDermott can say all he wants. It doesn't matter where you were drafted, signed, or whatever. It's what you do on this field to get playing time. But there are pressures. And Tommy comes back also, if Beane truly believed the wide receiver room was good, he wouldn't have called teams at the deadline about their wide receivers. Thank you very much. And that's a brilliant comment, because, of course, it might get you thrown out of one Bills drive forever. But, for example, if someone like John Warrow or Joe Biscaglia, or bless his heart, if Jerry Sullivan was still allowed in there, asked the question. So Brandon, if the championship roster is what you're saying it is, then why would there have been a need to go after other guys? And of course, he didn't admit who he was going after, but he sure as shit was quite obvious that he was downtrodden and upset about it. And the thing, again, that gets me about Beane's reply, it's for something he did say, that he did indicate in the presser, was that, and if this was Las Vegas, we'd have lost money on that. And apparently he's got, he values draft capital maybe more than it should be, because in the losing money, if the story is true about Waddle, that means he didn't want to part with a 1 and a 3 in this next draft. But if they'd gotten Waddle and won this game and had really uncovered something with him, and Waddle seems to be a pretty durable guy, and with this AFC the way it is, the Bills get to the Super Bowl and actually win it, do you think anybody would have given a shit about not having the first and third round of the pick in the draft? No. Tommy again here. Also just signed Hardman. And thank you for bringing that up. This is why I love the comments and get to all of them. Now Beane is in desperation mode. They're hoping Gabe can be the answer to this issue, and the fact that there's talk about Gabe, the fact that they brought in Mecole Hardman is a clear and present indication of what Beane was trying to accomplish at the trade deadline for wide receiver, which gives even more credence to the story about the picks he would or wouldn't part with for Jalen Waddle. Buffalo, Bills, just in general, front office, if I could address you, you got a lot of very loyal fans that, I had tears in my eyes the other night thinking about this after the show. Dudes, we were all born at night, most of us, but not last night. And this stuff is obvious. It is obvious. McDowell back. Beane knew they weren't good before the season started. That is why he yelled at GR 550 for asking about it. Can't deny that. Can't deny that. Thank you, Tommy. Smash that like. And guys, again, if you are new in the house, I'm seeing some new names here. First of all, thank you so much for reminding me, Tommy. We have hit finally the 1,000 subscriber mark. We actually blasted past it with the show the other night, which my lovely daughter accompanied me on when we were talking about the horrifying loss to the Dolphins. And, of course, she's on tonight probably. I believe we saw her comment earlier. She's a busy actress, so I'm lucky to get a little bit of her time here. But I thank her, and I thank you, everyone. And, of course, if you're new here, just take the second to like the vid. Go ahead and take the nanosecond required to hit the subscribe button. And you'll keep on getting this content generated by you and delivered by me like the asshole that I am. Cecil McDowell, at least Hardman used to be fast. Not sure about now. He's the type of receiver we should be drafting rather than Coleman. Yeah, Coleman, did anybody think James Harding when Coleman was drafted? Or where were some of the others? Even Kelvin Benjamin. That's another one that comes to mind. This tall, lanky, can't get separation type of receiver that's about contested catches. But I don't want to hear about contested catches. I want to hear about guys that can get open. And we've gone on and on about this. Tommy back in. It's also Brady not doing a good enough job of scheming things better with the wide receivers he has. And I believe that the team needs a shakeup. And I don't know if Brady has been making an attempt to audition for head coaching jobs. He's, again, to me, he comes off, especially earlier in the season, kind of smarmy in his pressers, like kind of too cool for school. Excuse me. I'm still hoarse from the other night. But, shake something up. I maybe you don't fire him any more than you don't fire Bobby Babich. But you brought in Ryan McNeil as a special defensive assistant. Bring in Dayball. I'd bring him in. I'd put him on the sideline. And I don't care if coaching staffs don't like it. I don't care if Brady doesn't like it. I don't care if the quarterback's coach doesn't like it. Too bad. You cannot have Josh Allen looking like that on the sideline. That cannot be the case. He didn't look like that when he was with Wyoming in college. Go back and look at my video I did where I did him in the game film with playing against Hawaii. with him pumping his fist. Do we ever see that? No, we don't. This guy is disillusioned big time. And if you were to try to save this season, I would bring in Dayball. I wouldn't do a thing. I wouldn't do a thing with Brady. I'd leave his smarmy ass up in the booth. I would bring in Dayball and get him on the sideline and get him working with Josh Allen. In a heartbeat. Probably late to the party, but congrats to the 1K subscribers. So that's not at all, nothing is late on that. Thank you very, very much. We're very happy to have that the case. And I will tell you, I have not applied to have ads on the stuff yet. I probably will because I always could use some new gear and a little bit of income from it. But most of all, it's just what it says to have 1,000. And that's what I really like. It's not about money or anything else like that. It's like Billy Beane said in Moneyball, it's not so much about the money. It's about what the money says. It's about saying that you're believed in. So thanks very much for that. McDermott is the main problem. No good coordinators want to come to Buffalo, or he does not want them. And you know, the notion with that is the fact that the one thing I point to is, and I'm sure McDermott, he seems to have things run with sort of an iron hand at times, which means he is calling the shots. So is he the one that's calling the shots that has both of our coordinators upstairs in the booth, where that doesn't happen on a single other club? Not one of the other 31 franchises in the National Football League has both coordinators in the booth. And yet McDermott does. What does that say? You didn't see Anthony Weaver, the Dolphins defensive coordinator, up in the booth on Sunday. He's down revving up his guys. How about Kelvin Shepard, former Bills linebacker, now the defensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions? Same thing, running down the field, pumping his fist. You can't have Josh Allen with that look on his face. A lot of blame to go around, to be honest. McDermott, Brady, and Beane, they all knew what this wide receiver room was all about. And that is frankly why I have all of these guys, and I could cover Josh up to keep him out of it. And those three right there, I would sit down if I were Terry Pagula. And again, Terry can call me on the phone right freaking now, and I'll be there tomorrow. And ask the hard questions that need to be asked. You know, we don't even see McDermott. Yeah, somebody said, "Oh, McDermott looked upset in the presser even on Sunday or on Monday." No, he looks lost. He looks haggard. He looks disillusioned. But do you ever see him angry? There's no attitude on this team. And it's like he keeps it down. It's like he's keeping the attitude and the emotion under control. It goes back to the Hard Knocks interview. And I mentioned this in a previous show a few weeks ago. But McDermott talked about in Hard Knocks when he was on his high school football team, and in the first game of the season, the coach comes in and takes a folding chair and throws it through a window, shattering it. They went out and kicked ass. And he said, "But you can't do that every week." Why not? You're doing the same thing every week now, which is this low-key. Well, it's just about fundamentals. You know, come on, man. Football is about hostility, aggression, intimidation, very directed, controlled, and disciplined, certainly. but just hostility and intimidation. I don't see it from him. Also, no preseason this season probably didn't help when it came to Allen getting comfortable with his new receivers. You know, that's a possibility too. And we didn't see anybody. Well, we didn't see, of course, Josh on the field at all during preseason, trying to protect him. So, you know, who knows? Just going to dive through these here. If Brady does great, he will leave after the season to be a head coach. If he sucks, then we are stuck with him. Dayball Field is the head coach, so nobody wanted him. Yeah. So we could keep him forever. And that's the McDaniels point. And why we need that. And we need him to be down on the field and working with Josh Allen, who is the key to this team being successful. Name another quarterback in the NFL with less to work with than Allen, and that's okay? No, it's absolutely not. We only have one wide receiver, Palmer. You know, I mean, if we talked about Elijah Moore, who former second-round pick with speed, Samuel with speed, where are the long routes? Where are the guys keeping these safeties from crashing down for 15 yards just about every first down that we run? Instead, we've got Brady giving us the old maybe I should have's. Dude, you got all week to figure this shit out. You don't have other stuff to do. How long does it take to get the idea of how to coordinate this team? Or get back to college. The rest are slot receivers and tight ends. Yeah, that's accurate. They don't use Coleman in the slot because Brady doesn't know how to put those wide receivers in better situations to be more effective on the field. Why not put Shakir in the outside? Why not do something different? When have we ever seen Cook as a wideout? We don't see it. It's like Brady, you know. At first we thought, oh, he's so creative, and it's like I'm just not seeing it. Brady just doesn't understand the player's strengths very well. Oops, I jammed out of the comments there. And Babich, he's the best DC we could get. No experience, horrible record. Nielsen had to take over the D-line, and the old man McD with his reading glasses is calling plays now. Those are not reading glasses. They're when he talked about those, and because he was asked about it actually, I was surprised at this. I think it was one of the Bills' actual reporters, like this Matty Glab, who was asking him about the glasses, and it's like he said, well, it just got, you know, too tough to see. I mean, if you need reading glasses, and you don't need glasses for myopia, which is nearsightedness, which means you have a hard nearsightedness means you can see near, but you can't see far. Well, out in the field is far. So if you got glasses to help you with reading, they would be kind of like, you know, your reading glasses down farther on your nose so you can look down at your play sheet and look up. The fact that he's got these goggles on with the clear frames to try to make them disappear, which they didn't, is an indication that it is a myopic situation that he said he struggled with for the longest time and finally had to give in. You're a head coach of an NFL team. What are you doing on the sideline not being able to see, especially when you don't have anyone else empowered on the sideline to be watching what's going on in the field? Are you shitting me? Jack Glimpse is in the house. How do you see the future seasons playing out if nothing changes year after year? I don't know. I wouldn't. If this continues like this, and I'm sure Terry Pagula right now is thinking, well, we had the 6-6 a couple of years ago, and we won out and went deep in the playoffs. And that's a possibility. So he might be considering that. So if that's the case, then okay, we'll let it play out. I don't think you'll see anyone fired. I think you might see Daboll brought in, but you won't see anybody fired. But if this tanks, and people are trying to compare it to the Sabres, where, okay, well, the Sabres have sucked for 20 years and he hasn't done anything about it. I'm sorry, guys, that's the NHL. It's not the NFL. The football team is a different story. It is more visible by an order of magnitude or more. So don't tell me that because Pegula hasn't done anything about the Sabres, he won't do anything about the Bills. Because I think he will this season if this tanks out like it's possible that we're seeing. Jack, glad to have you in the house here. And again, guys, tell me where you're from when you're new to the scene here. We need to hire great coordinators, but nobody wants McDee's hands up their butts. And, you know, that may be the reason these coordinators like being upstairs. Maybe it's not McDermott saying, well, you have to be up there because I want to have control on the sideline. Maybe it's them saying, I don't need a proctologist trying to work with me doing a digital exam while I'm trying to coach either the offense or the defense, which is why they're upstairs. But the whole problem is the disconnect with Josh Allen and the deer in the headlights look we've seen from him. Mayfield will have a chip. Allen getting all the praise. ESPN over Mayfield. ESP over Mayfield. Yeah, that's and Mayfield's a gamer. And you know, certainly you've got some guys that get in his face because even though he's been great for them, he doesn't have this pedestal sort of persona that Allen has developed. Because I think people are afraid to jump on Allen. I mean, you see a couple of guys talking to Allen on the sideline, but they're always kind of guarded and so forth. No one is getting it into his face. Tommy, Brady has done an awful job this season of adjusting during games. You know, and I'm glad you brought up that point. We know the fact that halftimes are nothing. Halftime adjustments that people talk about, that's really not a thing. But the fact of the matter is that without the actual connection, eye-to-eye situation on the sideline about what's going on, look, it's fine. And many offensive coordinators want to be up in the booth so they can see things. They can see it slower. Okay, that's fine. But you still have to have a presence communicating with your quarterback on the sideline. And no one is doing it. Some people might want to do it, but they may be afraid to do it because it's the great Josh Allen and we can't say anything to him. And I believe that. And Josh, with the looks he's giving the camera, and it's not like they're just catching him at moments. It's what he's looking like during these games. He's pleading underneath his golden aura for someone to help him. All three of these guys, and none of them are doing it. One won't get him the players. The next one can't put the players he has in a position. And the one wearing the headset there in the picture is not an enforcer. He needs to throw a chair through a window, but he'll never do it. Rod in the house. Rod, glad to have you in. Thank you, sir. Josh said that pass was to Shavers, but he couldn't follow through due to the pressure up the middle. And I mentioned that earlier, and you probably responded at that point, and I believe that. because there's no way. I mean, Knox is outside of the defender, and he's also trending outside of the defender, like he's on that stem. And if there was pressure, probably Knox needs to know that you take the inside stem to get inside leverage, because that's the quickest line to get from the quarterback to him with the ball. But if you line that up and look at the film, Shavers was there. And I don't know why there's this fear of throwing to other people. It's almost like we got rid of Diggs, so no one was looking over Josh's shoulder, insisting on the ball. But now it's like he's afraid to get people the ball, and it's as if he needs that. Even though he apparently hated it, he needs it. And Shavers, demonstrated some ability to separate, demonstrated some ability on contested catches. They're not throwing him the ball. And if that was the case, he needed to get it, because if you go look at that film, there's hesitation there. Kincaid is made of glass. Jason Bush in the house. Good to have you here, man. Hopefully you guys that are new here, I know all the names of the guys that are here all the time. I've got a memory like a steel trap. So if you're new here, please go ahead and subscribe. Definitely like to see that, because it helps the channel. And the more we get, the more people are parked in front of the restaurant, the more want to show up, because we need to get a movement going here with honesty that's not rooted in, okay, let's study the film, and if this guy had just done this or that guy had done that. No, those are symptoms. They're not causes. And we're talking about causes on this show. Yeah, McDermott already said the Bills don't want Dayball. He said there's nothing in the plans right now to bring him in. And that might well be the case, because of what we're talking about here with McDermott being a control freak and not able to have someone in a coordinator's position that has a stronger personality than him in order to try to get these things straightened out. Joe Skis in the house. You're slightly out of focus. When you lean back in your chair, you're then in focus. Thank you for letting me know that, and I'll tell you why that's the case. When I had it on autofocus, what happens with this plasma screen display behind me, it gets that shutter effect. Thank you for letting me know that, and I'll stop getting in your face and getting out of focus. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Just like Frazier quit after 13 seconds because of McDermott. He would rather sit out the season than let McD stick his hand up his butt. Yeah, that's true. And, a head coach can blame whoever he wants. But the head coach is responsible. That's the ultimate. The buck stops there. He's got to understand that. Josh looks checked out. You have a team that refuses to get him help. He looks around the league and sees other quarterbacks in the league with real help. Slap in the face. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the team sees that. I mean, we've been around these Bills long enough. This team sees, and this team is intelligent. And don't tell me that, oh, no, we just all have our heads in the playbook and the game plan, and we don't listen to any of this. No, they listen to all of it. And I think that team, check it out the other day a little bit, was a little bit of a revolt. I can't imagine that if you've got the general manager saying to the fans that you were probably fans as upset as I was, Brandon Beane, saying, well, the ball players are in the middle, somewhere up here. They are bracketed by that upset. So I'm certain that they were. And Beane should have pulled the trigger. Howie Roseman. I mean, look, they don't have what's going on. They brought in the Dolphins' Jalen Phillips. He was a wrecking ball for them. That's why he had that low score. Yeah, Josh looks like a broken man for sure. I think Josh has to come to realize he will never win a Super Bowl, so he's lost his drive. You know, that's quite possible. As a Vikings fan, I cheer for the Bills. I guess you're my AFC team, but you're also letting me down. Come on, guys. Yeah, when we traded the Vikings that second-round pick and expected the Vikings to suck, so it would be a great pick. Didn't happen. Who's the guy Josh can depend on when it's third and long? There's no Cole Bishop. Or Stephon Diggs. Or Matt Collins. Can I go on? The Bills really screwed up. The Pats have a 71% chance of winning the division today. It was 50% last week and 10% at the start of the year. Yeah. And if it's what it takes, a certain part of me would almost like to see the rest of the season blown up if it would mean that we could get an aggressive presence on the sideline for the Bills who knows how to coach a championship football team. I've mentioned John Gruden. I know there's others out there that agree with me. McDermott did a great thing bringing the Bills out of the drought, for sure. And it might be two really different kinds of guys that you need in order to be able to do that. The guy that brought him out of the drought might not be able to bring him to the promised land. And that story is older than the crucifixion because it's the story of Moses, and that's exactly what happened. Defenses have zero respect for our wide receiver room. Defenses now know if you shut down the Bills' run game, the offense gets stuck. Their offense gets stuck. You've now seen this in all three losses. Absolutely. And there's just no creativity and inventiveness. Where are the wrinkles? Where are the wrinkles? Or even just running more play action. Or the obvious thing, and don't throw in the wrinkles when you're like it's a 4th and 1. And again, I go back to that game on Sunday, which was ripe for the Bills to take. This is why this game is such a really node point of what we're talking about here. The Dolphins win the toss. They take the ball. They call a timeout before the first play from scrimmage. Then there's like a penalty. And then before they get a first down, they throw an interception. Cole Bishop picks them off. Bills get the ball. And start their drive. They don't do well on first. They end up with the halfway decent second down play. It's like third and whatever. They end up with the 4th and 1, the long and short of it. And McDermott is talking about in the presser, well, it was a long one. Are you shitting me? That is your opportunity. That is your opportunity to put it on this team. If you can't recognize when there are points in the game, critical points where energy needs to be expended, and don't tell me that the entire Bills offense feels the same way about it. Most of that Bills offense, if not all, what the hell are we doing not going for it? We have an opportunity to get on top with these guys. Break serve, basically taking the ball away from them when they open the game with it, and you don't go for it in a 4th and 1.5. McDermott is either a chicken shit or he does not grasp energies. It's like he looks at the game as just this flatline thing where if it happens here, if it happens here, it happens here, it doesn't matter. You just always do the same thing. You're consulting this little book that tells you, oh, this is what I'm going to do in this situation. That was a node point. That was a critical spot. That was a spot where energies were at play, and you pulled the chicken switch, McDermott. And you basically, I think you gutted your team doing that. It's like, what the hell are we doing? If we're thinking this, and we're fans, I mean, come on, seriously, does this stuff really impact our lives other than make us upset? No. But these guys, it's their job. And if we feel about it like this, how must people like Josh Allen feel? That was a capital offense, not going for that fourth down. Make Harrison a two-way player, wide receiver that's coming back. Vito, that actually crossed my mind, I think, a little bit at some point now that you mention it. I mean, what would that be? I mean, he's definitely got great ball skills. There's worse ideas, like, hanging on to picks instead of acquiring talent you need right now. I thought that too, Vito B, but we were so damn thin at cornerback too. At least Hairston would get respect for his speed. True enough. Buy stocks, just sub. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it so much. We're having a lot of fun on the show here. It's unfortunate it has to be this kind of fun where we're discussing what the hell is going on with the four men pictured behind me. Pardon me again. Congrats on 1K. Thank you, Tommy. Very much appreciated. Next target, 5K. There you go. Well, they say the algorithm says when you get this far, you start to get a few more. And plus, as it's known in the YouTube world, you've got to go through and take your lumps and get started. Nobody makes the perfect vid to start. I won't even go back and watch my early ones. I don't need to experience that. Jeff is in the house. Oh, get him up there. No way our 2026 first round pick will grab a wide receiver or better equal to the talented Waddle. Besides, our first 5 picks next season will be used on acquiring defensive players. And that's true. I mean, listen, especially for early round picks, Beane has not been the great or even good. And when they are that late, what can you expect? I mean, that's why the Dolphins wanted a third along with the first, because they're expecting the Bills are going to be picking 29th or 30th, maybe, if they give him that player. And if they're picking that late, that's essentially becoming a second round pick. So the notion that these picks are so valuable, I mean, Beane has got that sort of burned into his brain a little bit, and he needs to get by that, because it's not so. I mean, they're not early picks; they're later picks of the first round, and furthermore, when you've got a demonstrated situation of not being able to identify the best talent and missing on certain things, you're far better off getting someone you know. He's a known quantity in the NFL. Being screwed up. Guys that can get open are true football players. They ate, drank, studied, and watched, lived and played football since 2 years old. The defense has a lot of needs next season with no cash and the need to sign 2 O-linemen, I think. Yeah, I don't even want to think about that. And especially, when you've had your second and third round picks, speaking of, valuing picks, I mean, TJ Sanders is not really shown much this season, and then he got hurt and is on injured reserve. Now he's going to be able to start practicing again, perhaps that comes around. Landon Jackson, your 3rd round pick. You know, I mean, I didn't go out on the pro days or look at a lot of film. I don't know what you guys were seeing, but or is it that the Bills just don't know how to handle these youngsters and get them indoctrinated into the league as to how they can actually get good at it? I mean, you know, respecting guys like, you know, looking at film like Joe Marino, of course, said, you know, Jackson just doesn't seem to have the feel. Why? Why doesn't he have the feel? Is he the wrong guy or is he being coached wrong? And then, you know, there's just this business of the negativity sort of thing that flows around that results in, you know, things like these guys getting hurt. Like, you know, Jackson apparently tore an MCL and PCL. The ACL and meniscus are intact, according to Dr. Kyle Trimble. And what he saw, because the valgus mechanism wasn't, it's almost the same thing as with Max Hairston's injury, where he got the PCL, but it's rare that doesn't also result in an ACL injury. And he kind of ascribed it with Max Hairston. Well, he's lighter, smaller, so less force on that valgus mechanism for the ACL. Well, then, you know, I don't know, but apparently Landon Jackson was lucky with that. But I mean, this is a guy. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, how can the Rams go out and find somebody like Jared Verse, who is a monster as a rookie? Remember all the hell he gave the Bills when the Bills played and lost that close game out at SoFi Stadium versus the Rams last season. And Jared Verse was a monster. He wasn't a 3rd round pick. I think he was later than that. I mean, what are we doing, Buffalo? Why can't we locate durable, effective players, guys that, you know, you need guys in rounds 1 through 3 that are going to start. I mean, they're lucky they got Deion Walker, who's basically been obviously their best rookie. You know, Max might, you know, change that a little bit, but I mean, come on. And that was 4th round. I just don't, there's just too much I just don't understand and don't believe about the Bills. Coleman started very late. Yep. Here we go. Sal's in the house. McDermott systematically destroyed the receiver room after Dayball left, and Josh was a supposed turnover machine. 2 more picks to Mahomes. He wants the run game time-consuming because his defense sucks. And that's actually pretty well put, because if you want to look at the trail of destruction that has led us to where we are, which leads me back to one of my early comments in the show was, I mean, is this the same situation as when the Bills ended up 6-6? Is it just a repeat of those things? Or have we developed further and further in this disease that's going on with this team that's causing these problems now? Billy the Buffalo, glad to have you in the house. Bills Mafia is delusional to think Allen might eventually want out. He loves Buffalo, but this administration doesn't love him. And I agree with that. And I don't think he'll ever want out. I think he wants to make it work here. But if he had enough power to tell the Bills who to take with their first pick last year, Keon Coleman, then maybe he's got enough power to tell Terry Pagula, guys, get some people in here and make us look like some other teams rather than this pedantic, rudimentary horse shit that we're seeing over and over again. Scott Baum said, glasses from the Gloria Vanderbilt collection. Thanks, we needed some levity. Yeah, Sally also trashed the defense. They're too small, they miss tackles and get hurt. Then only ex-Bills are ready for retirement can fill in for them. Right, because nobody else runs the defense and because of the fact that Buffalo has not drafted thumper linebackers. I mean, they didn't have a chance at Jack Campbell because the Lions took him too early. But you talk about big thumping linebackers, and Buffalo doesn't have them. I mean, Terrell Bernard to me is like a glorified safety, except he's just not as fast as safety needs to be. I mean, not impressed. Certainly. I mean, you the other linebackers. For example, good Lord, I can't even think of his name right now. That's embarrassing, but that's how into this Bills thing I am, right? But certainly, I mean, we've had some linebackers that have done well in the past, but we don't have thumpers, and that's because these guys do get hurt because of that. Remember Coach Chuck Knox, good coach, but Marv Levy took the Bills to Super Bowls. Yeah, it's a good point. Good point. Been looking forward to the rant all day. Dan Mitchell watched all 22 and said Allen had guys open, but didn't hit them like he did versus KC. And that's true. I mean, we even saw the example of some of this, and of course there was more blitzing on him than probably he's seen all season from Miami. But I still maintain there was something deeper going on in this game. I think there is some bad feelings in the clubhouse about what wasn't done at the trade deadline, especially when all the other kids got things under the tree and Josh Allen didn't. They ran Diggs out, the only guy with a nutsack. Word. We will all take Allen having a headset on the sideline talking to coaches upstairs over nothing. And we don't even see that because we just see a couple of guys who never get their names mentioned that are the ones that are talking about. Scott Bomzek is from Buffalo. Awesome. And I know it's even more painful in Bills country. I'm in Southeast Michigan. Tommy from Mafia Sports Report, likewise, is in Southeast Michigan. And I know it's even more difficult there. Maybe it affects the front office more just being there. They need to put Kean in the slot, put Shakir and Palmer out wide. Johnny Rickshaw. Something different. Something different anyway. Jason Bush. Thank you, sir. Glad to be here. I'm trying to catch up with your comments because I yak too long. I watched the entire all 22, Ralph, and I've not seen it yet. I was actually busy today. Brady's pass game scheme is complete trash. Wide receivers being used as dummy routes to scheme open tight ends. Trying to pass out of run formations constantly. And yeah, and we know that. And thinking that I mean, I don't know. Maybe here's some of the content creators that is Brady saying, okay, well, they're success at heavy, so start throwing out of heavy. But that's not happening. Cooper caught 47,000 balls from Pee Wee to pros, and it took him weeks to learn the offense, and people want Dayball midseason to install a new offense. Insane. Well, I don't think you could have Dayball come in and install a new offense, but I think there needs to be some consultation on what's going on to tweak what's going on to make it a little bit more successful. You're wrong, JPS. This is BS. The guy caught 47K balls, can be implemented immediately. It happens constantly in the league after trades. Brady's scheme is complete garbage, period. We got some guys getting into it here. I don't want to miss this one. Oh, I'm being called on this with the correct handle. You're wrong, Ralph. Jared Verse was the 19th overall pick in the draft. I thought he was a later round pick. Forgive me on that one. Got to see where we left off on these comments. Well, I'll have to hit him here someplace. Yes, John Williams, he's starting to play and talk like a man who no longer likes his job. He is not in the zone much anymore. That is for damn sure. Yeah, Tommy, and Josh wanted to go for it. That could have gotten in his head in the game, and I believe that's true. Yep, that is why I always said McDermott coaches not to lose instead of coaching to win. Pulling the chicken switch. Pulling the chicken switch. I agree Josh Allen is not having fun. John Williams in the house. I think he wants out of Buffalo. I don't agree with that. He needs a head coach who is a wizard on offense and is motivational. Give me John Gruden, please. John Gruden won a Super Bowl with Brad Johnson, for crying out loud. Bills fans should be most concerned about losing Allen. That's the only thing that matters, really. Timothy Walsh in here. I'm not that worried about that part of it. I think Josh is a Buffalo Bill to stay, but I think by the same token that he was able to influence things as to who to draft 2 years ago in the form of Keon Coleman, be it a right or wrong decision, I think likewise he has the voice to be able to say some things about what's going on with his team, which I almost want it in a certain way, and I probably hate myself for saying it, but in a certain way, have it tank a little more so that it's a sure thing and we do see a change, because this has been going on year after year and there seems to be a glass ceiling. Bills without Josh Allen or the Browns win only 2 or 3 games. Yeah, I'd like to have Jim Schwartz back as a defensive coordinator, though. Ralph, Jared Verse was the 19th. Yeah, I got to that one. That one hit me, and I wanted to get that out there, and I was wrong. Scott may be the only one who got Gloria Vanderbilt glasses take. Kramer telling George is wearing women's glasses. Very good. You got to be on your Seinfeld stuff, especially on this show. What? Josh Allen holds all the power if he wanted things to change. If Josh says it's Brady or me, who do the Bills pick? Well, they pick Josh and Brady. I don't know. I don't believe it any longer. Bills fans are delusional if they don't think Allen is a risk to want out if they continue on the current direction. He's a relative steal contract-wise, too. It would be devastating, no doubt. No, I don't think that's going to happen. Tommy, again, I watched the L22 and disagree a little with Dan. Yes, Allen missed some throws, but they're putting Allen in this box that he's clearly uncomfortable with and turning him into captain checkdown. Absolutely. I mean, it's obvious that he isn't comfortable. There's one thing of being comfortable but not having success, but you could see the lack of comfort and the lack of sense, and that is entirely different. And when we talk about Allen missing some throws, how about the 30-plus passing attempts that receivers weren't open? Pagula has serious decisions to make. McDermott job for life needs serious thought. Yeah, that can't be the case. That definitely can't be the case. I think I missed some of your comments up here. I jumped down. But I think we got to most of them here. And we've been at it for about our 90 minutes here. I think we've talked this through and understand that there's a problem, that something needs to change. And I don't think we've answered or come up with a real solution yet, because it might be a combination of a number of solutions. I think the one thing that we can recognize, though, is that it's to a point where there's enough discontent and disgruntlement with the fan base. And some folks could say, oh, well, look, that was the case a couple of years ago when Ty Dunn came out with the McDermott problem and so forth. And that may be true, but I believe that as this iteration of the Bills goes further and further down the road, you can't ignore the stories from the previous seasons. And I think this builds. And on one hand, in an earlier comment, one of the first comments to the show, I think it was Vito B that stated that, look, this looks and smells an awful lot like what happened when they went 6-6 and then won out. And perhaps so. And they won out with Joe Brady playing his first half season coaching his first half season as the Bills' offensive coordinator. But that's not the case anymore. Now he's nearly 2 seasons removed from that in terms of time, in terms of what's on film, and I'm not sure at all that that's what we're going to be looking at with what's going on at the end of this season. I think there has to be changes, and I don't think we'll see anything alter in terms of people being fired. We might see some additions. I'm not discounting the possibility of Brian Daboll. Maybe Josh will realize it himself. But I'm hoping that the Bills either win the Super Bowl or tank. I don't really think I could take a mid or late playoff loss. I mean, we'll sit through it and hope. But the fact is that at some point something has to change. You cannot have you can't have a repeat of what happened with Dan Marino, who actually did get to a Super Bowl in his second season and lost and never got there again. And Dan was a great pure thrower of the ball, but I mean, Josh Allen is obviously head and shoulders above him as a quarterback. And this cannot be the story. Terry Pegula has to make sure that Josh Allen wins the Super Bowl. He's the only guy that could do it because he's the only guy that can make the changes in this front office. So, anyway, that's where we are. Get to a couple last comments here. Scott Blakely, the mark of a championship team is the adjustments made when things aren't working. So let's do an end around again. Serious coaching issues. Pegula has serious decisions to make. We already got to that one. That was from Sal. Scott, Ralph, great show. Truth is told. Thank you, sir. Thanks so much, everyone. Lots of problems. From Cecil McDowell. Sal, just found your show. Great show. Thanks. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Great job tonight, brother. Go Bills. Thank you, Tommy. Mafia Sports Report, guys. Be sure to get over to his channel, subscribe. You want to hear some ranting. Truth be told there. I saw Dan Marino play in person. He was different. Yeah, so did I. But anyway, guys, we've been at this and beating the hell out of it for an hour and 32 minutes and 11, 12, 13 seconds. Let's just hope that some things can change. Somehow, anything different. It's like Groundhog Day with this team season after season. And as Bill Murray said, something is different. And she said, what's different? Good or bad? And he's like, anything different is good. So let's hope for something different. So we're going to sign off here tonight. Again, thank you so much for all the support. What a blast talking to all of you and all of the great points that are made. It's not a show without you guys. Appreciate it so much. So having said that, be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills. I am the Ralph, and this is the Ralph Rant. See you next time.